Their steel rails spread over continents. They featured in hundreds of volumes of fiction and fact. They brought immense wealth to empires, and thousands of men died in war fighting for a few miles of elusive rail track. This, then, is a history of the steam locomotive, a steel dinosaur which is dying out like its flesh and blood counterpart. Here in Tasmania, generations of boys have grown up with ambitions to be engine drivers. And to them, this big H-class locomotive was a thing to be wondered at, studied and watched, dreamt about. The ambition to be an engine driver is dying out with the advent of the colourless diesel engine. Gone the cheery glow of the firebox, the rushing wind in harmony with the thundering drivers, the proud plume of smoke unfurling a banner in the sky. There are groups who have an affinity with the past, the Australian Railway Exploration Society and the Tasmanian Transport Museum Society. And this is one of their trips. This was a 3-day jaunt over part of Tasmania's railway links with the northwest and west. This was the first day from Devonport to Deloraine and then along the Mole Creek line. More than 80 enthusiasts of the Exploration Society, mainly Victorians, arranged this trip in the 3 days, which was to take them as far west as Zeehan and as far north as Stanley. This society likes to travel over lines which have not been used for about 10 years, and although the Tasmanian links are still in use, it was a novelty of breaking new territory, and the engines and rolling stock which were the attractions. The Tasmanian Railway Department saw to it that the visitors were not disappointed. At Deloraine, the big 110-ton H-class was uncoupled and a CCS locomotive steamed up. There was time for photographs and a passing sneer at the Tasman Limited, towed by its diesel engine. The Mole Creek line was opened in 1890 for general and goods traffic. The passenger service was withdrawn in the 1950s, but there is a daily goods service at present drawn by a ubiquitous diesel engine. Today, instead of passengers, the goods are timber and paper pulp and equipment for Poatina and the new Mersey Falls power scheme. The line winds like a ribbon through farmlands, over bridges and cuttings, crisscrosses a roadway where motorists pause to watch what will possibly be the last of the steam trains. CCS number 25 takes the gradients with ease and whistles greetings as it rolls with a clattering rhythm through the bush. This is one of the very few CCS locomotives left in Australia. End of the line. Now the engine must be turned for the return trip to Lamana Junction. The turntable creaks and groans as 56 tons of CCS trundles aboard. The history of this locomotive is interesting. The CC class was built in 1905 by the firm of Bayer Peacock in Manchester, England. In 1926, the locomotives on the Tasmanian railways were rebuilt at the Launceston workshops and fitted with superheating. Now the few remaining specimens of this class stand cold and idle in roundhouses throughout the state. Another generation of steam engines are on their way out. For those nostalgic for the age of steam, every trip on a steam engine is an adventure, and a chance to ride on the footplate is an evergreen memory. Even some of the coaches could be described as ancient. For those who merely come along for the ride, the railway authorities provided what is known as the ACS Tasman Limited stock with restroom and all amenities. But the hardcore of enthusiasts ignored such simple luxuries and preferred the Spartan simplicity of an ABD coach or the guards van with passenger compartments at each end and brake. Lamana Junction, and once more the big H-class loco is hitched on for the run home along the coast. The H-class is a distinctive engine, and for those who take a technical interest, its designation is 482. This class is sometimes known as the mountain class, and you can judge by its size why this is so. Thus ended the first day, when Tasmanian lines again shook to the racing wheels of steam locomotives. This is the second day, and an eager air of expectancy as the Emu Bay Company prepares to roll from the sheds its showpiece. The buffers link up, but what sort of engine is this? Yes, it's one of the few surviving relics of the wartime rail system, a monster Garrett locomotive. As Garrett number 16 rolled into the station, the Victorians greeted it with amazed looks and excited conversation. This was a highlight of the 3 days, something which the Victorians had never remotely expected, one of the few remaining Garrett engines in the world. As the railway buffs would tell you, the Garrett is really 2 engines in one, and technical types classify them as 482, 284. The 4 denotes the front bogies, the 8 the drivers, and the 2 the rear bogies. But as the Garrett is a double-ended engine, it can become quite confusing. This is an Australian standard Garrett built around 1944 in South Australia as an emergency wartime design. Garretts are ideally suited to narrow-gauge tracks in mountainous country. They are still used in South Africa and India, and this design has been copied throughout the world. And this is the last of 2 working models in Tasmania. If you were the maiden tied to the railway track in a melodrama, this would be your view of the Garrett. And a wallaby gets this view of the engine. The Garretts were not popular locomotives with train crews. The driving cabin was uncomfortable. They were great jolting beasts and ate up fuel and water with all the enthusiasm of a monstrous steel glutton. Where train crews cursed the name Garrett, today's enthusiasts faithfully recorded the engine on movie film and tape recording. You can still see some signs of the Garretts in Tasmania. When they were finally scrapped, an economy-minded railway department used the big water tanks as separate units to supply water to railway camps. Rosebery, normally the end of the line for the Emu Bay Company, but this is something of a special occasion. The diesel throbs quietly at the side of the line as the Garrett pulls into the mining town station. This was the first return journey for over a year for this big steam engine. The private railway company still sends goods to Rosebery, and many cars are still taken by train to this point rather than face the trip over the new Murchison Highway. Here is another highlight of the 3-day excursion, a chance for the photographers to get an exciting view of the Garrett crossing a high-level bridge over a deep river gorge. It's possible no other steam locomotive was such a celebrity. Railway is a tribute to courage and perseverance. One of the most amazing railway engineering feats ever attempted. The line runs through swamp, over deep chasms, through bush, and sweeps across matted button grass plains. Zeehan is the last stop, the finale for the West Coast Railway. Today the rails rust in the rain and sun, and the once bustling goods yard lies almost empty of engines and rolling stock. Zeehan Station is a dreary expanse of ramshackle buildings with once smart paintwork peeling as the bleak westerly winds find each nook and cranny in the loose boards. The end of the line for G16, just as it was the end of the line many years ago for Zeehan, a prosperous, thriving mining town. The Garrett seems to suddenly feel its rudely interrupted retirement. It stands quietly leaking steam and droplets of water from many valves and pipes. Zeehan, the end of the line for many when the mines close down. Early this century, Zeehan boasted a population of 10,000 people. Trams carrying wood for the mine scurried down its wide main street. Land sold at record price of £150 a foot, and at schools, business houses and social life thrived. Today, the town's wide main street stands empty, and the few people who still remember look back on an age of silver. There's a loneliness about Zeehan, a feeling of waste and desolation, a town populated by ghosts of a bygone, virile age. Zeehan, and the end of the line. Perhaps a fitting epitaph for G16, the end of the line for the last train.